So, Kmart, you were there and have been yesterday and again today. Set the scene for us. What is the mood there as we prepare for the first practice?
Greeny, if yesterday was any indication, today is going to be wild. We had a lot of music. It's humid. It's hot today again. And like CJ Mosley said, everybody's excited to see Aaron Rodgers. Now, today is the first day of 4 straight Jets practices of training camp. It's unclear if we will talk to Rodgers today, but here's what I can tell you. Jets practices have a much different feel with Rodgers at the helm. I'm told he's a guy who not only talks to the offense and instructs guys and praises them and critiques them, but he also talks to the defensive guys. And Quinnen Williams, when he and I spoke yesterday, he said that's only going to make us better. So I expect to see a lot of energy. Yesterday they had Jay-Z bumping all day, and all they were doing was going through conditioning walkthroughs. So today with practice, I expect some high energy.
Oh, we had Jay-Z bumping here as well yesterday, Kmart. I'm sorry that you missed that. But in an unrelated story, these young players, how are you already seeing that? I mean, CJ Mosley is a grizzled veteran, if you will, but Quinnen Williams and so many of these young guys who were so excited to have Rodgers there.
No, here's the thing. These guys have a high standard for themselves, but when you add Aaron Rodgers into the mix, the level just kicks up a notch. Elijah Vera-Tucker, their offensive lineman, said, you know, we understand we have a good roster. I expect good things. And I said, well, what does good things mean? And he said, I expect us to win a lot of games. There's a confidence here that existed last year, but the volume is turned up so much more because, you know, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, and this team has young talent, but with that kind of veteran, think about it, Greeny, you know better than anybody. The Jets have never had this type of leader and this type of top-tier talent at the quarterback position in a very long time.
No, and by a very long time, we're literally talking about 50 years since Joe Namath was at his best. Kmart, stay with me. They released the first picture of Rodgers in his Jets jersey yesterday. What? Who did that?
Of course.
Well, that is Rodgers in his
him.
Jets jersey. Okay, well, so all right, here's the squad. RC is here. Harry is here. Kmart stays with us. But, Jeff, I want to start with you because you said an intriguing thing. As everyone is making such a big deal of this, and certainly I plead guilty to that myself, you said something in our meeting this morning that intrigued me and made me feel like it is worth following.
This, Greeny, is the most important training camp of Aaron Rodgers' career. Not the first one when he took over as the starter in Green Bay for Brett Favre. This one. And it's not just hyperbole. It's not just because of we know the legacy on the line, but it's because of him as a teacher in this camp. He's bringing his coach and Nathaniel Hackett into this system. So he's got to step in there, and him and Hackett have to teach the rest of this offense. They have to impose a culture. They have to get this team ready for the season. So it's not just about the player Aaron Rodgers right now. It is also, Greeny, about the coach Aaron Rodgers.
I think that's right. And RC, what the Jets are trying to do is something that's very hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard. Catching lightning in a bottle in sports is hard to do. Having a very, very little narrow window and saying it is basically championship or bust in the next year or two. What are the biggest concerns here for you, or the biggest thoughts as they start this thing today?
Well, the biggest concern for me is their head coach, who seemed extremely focused on whether or not he wanted to do Hard Knocks and not winning a Super Bowl. And now you're still continuing to hear news about how that situation with this show that has been around forever, even before Robert Saleh was ever thought of as a head coach. And we've seen teams go forward, progress, and play well after being on Hard Knocks. It's about playing football. It's not about Aaron Rodgers, the coach. It's about Aaron Rodgers, the person. It's about all of these things the New York Jets did to get him, whether it's Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Nathaniel Hackett, all of these little pieces they put in place to allow Aaron Rodgers to be the leader of this locker room. It's time for him to lead. He not only has to play well, but he has to be a part of this locker room that Sauce Gardner said on the pivot isn't what you think he is. And so when you think about Aaron Rodgers and all that he can bring on the grass, he has to bring that in the locker room as well. But it starts with Robert Saleh understanding how to coach a team that will be under the microscope.
No, it's a really good point. Incremental improvement is no longer, Harry, the standard. You really need to go from not zero. They weren't bad last year, but they weren't great. They need to go from that all the way this year. That brings up a lot of challenges, Harry.
Well, and I would say this, if I had to, pinpoint what's the top priority for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, is being the best version of himself because of the influence that he has, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball as well, because now they feel like they have a guy that can go toe-to-toe with a lot of other good quarterbacks in the AFC and across the NFL landscape. Also, I would say I thought it was very imperative that Aaron Rodgers didn't show up in a costume, right? He showed up in a business-like mindset to let everyone know that this is the tone that he's setting, and they got to get off to a great start because of their schedule. That offense has to have that cohesion in order for things to be right on the offensive side of the ball. So I thought that was very, very a meaningful look for the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers showing up just ready to go and ready to be that guy.
I don't know. Look, I don't know. I'd like to think that all of the attention is not going to have any impact on this team whatsoever. But there is an enormous amount of attention on what remains a mostly very, very young group. And that is something that at least runs through your mind as you consider it, no?
No, it doesn't. I think, my job is to come on here as a former football player or athlete and explain things to people that aren't or never were. What you got to understand about these men that are in the locker room now, the worst guy on the New York Jets team was a star in high school, right? Mm-hmm. The worst guy on the New York Jets team was at least a good college football player. They've always had attention. People have always liked them. They've always gotten a certain level of special treatment. And so now having these cameras around doesn't affect these men the way that you believe it does. They want attention anyway. They want the bright lights. And I want to explain something to y'all about football. See, fans believe that when they pack these stadiums that they have such a large effect on what happens on each play, but they actually don't. Because for a moment in time when the ball is snapped, you don't know that anybody is in the stands. You don't hear anything. Everything goes completely silent. They're just nameless gray faces around. You do not see the people on the sideline. All you know is that it's yourself. You see your face mask and 21 other people. And then immediately when you make a tackle, when a play is made, you can hear everything else and see everything else. It's about what you do in those 3 to 4 seconds, not what you do walking into a building for training camp.
Oh, that's a good place to leave this conversation.
That's a Mike
there.
Tomlin coach guy right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.